idea for all this really came from a dream?
Yes, it did.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Myke Hideous. Myke is an American gothic rock singer and songwriter from New Jersey. He's a founder and frontman of the East Coast gothic rock band the Empire Hideous, which was active throughout the 90s and into the early 2000s. He has performed with the Bronx Casket Co, Spy Society 99, and the Misfits as a fill-in vocalist from May to July of 1998. Myke, welcome to the show.
Good evening. How are you,
Good
ladies and
evening.
gentlemen?
It's a great
Excellent.
honor
Yes.
to have you here, Myke.
Very much so.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And you look fantastic, by the way. People can't see you, but we can. So you're looking good, Daddy.
I guess that's another compliment at age 53. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm trying to drink from that fountain of youth.
You're doing good. You're definitely doing good.
I don't feel that way.
So on the bio that we entered, Myke, is there anything you want to add to it? Because there really wasn't one on your Hideous site, and we had to nab that from IMDb.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, for the most part, Jerry got pretty much all of it right. I started my first band, Empire Hideous, in 1988. I went for 10 years, and in 1998, I got hired to be the vocalist for the punk rock band known as the Misfits, which is now world famous. And at the time, when I was a singer for them, I did some of the largest festival shows that they had ever done in their career, as well as my career. And that sort of catapulted me with my career. But I only lasted in the band for about 5 months. It didn't last very long. There was a falling out. And long story short, right after that, I came out of the band. I wrote a book. I wrote an autobiography called King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit, currently sold out. After which I also formed a band called Spy Society 99, sort of a punk lounge death rock type of band. And then I recorded 3 albums for a metal band called the Bronx Casket Co. And then after that, I started doing Empire Hideous again. And I basically retired from music in 2008 to continue following my work as an artist and a photographer. So I focused more on my artwork, my paintings, my sculptures, my drawings, as well as my photography. And I was doing that for quite a while. And then just last year, I did musically, I did a couple of shows throughout the summer. And I was going to do a few this year, but everything's closed. So that's that. And so right now I'm basically, I feel like I'm more of an artist / photographer than anything else. But interesting, I just got called yesterday to do vocals for a band that is actually a couple guys in Panama, a couple guys in Pennsylvania, another guy in LA. So sort of a world thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I suppose.
And, this is the beauty of this world we live in. One of the beauties, there are lots of not beautiful things going on, but that we can do these things remotely.
Yeah, except for a person like me who's completely stupid when it comes to working electronics. Jerry had to call me and like basically guide me through how to get to this. I am so, and it's gotten so more complicated with the security of everything. It's not what it was 10 years ago. I've just never been good at the internet or computers, so I'm going to stick with my artwork and photography.
You obviously haven't been introduced to two-factor authentication yet.
What?
It's where you have to have an app on your phone which gives you a second password that's generated on the fly after you enter your first password.
I don't even know what that means, but okay.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
In the meanwhile, we have people like Jerry to help us through. I'm always struggling too, Mike, so you're not alone.
All right. I don't feel so bad now.
Don't feel bad. And we had a friend of the show, friend of Jerry's for a long time, do a pre-show because he does these 20-year nostalgia loops, and he's a fellow New Jerseyan. CW chanters out there. His real name, I only know the first one, but you've had a few.
You've met him.
Yeah, you've met him a few times. New Jersey, the scene. And
I've met him?
Yeah.
Yeah. His name's Ben, but I can never say his last name. But he did a really great pre-show to this show. He's got his own channel, CW Chanter. And
I sent you a link to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
his music shows are my thing. I love his music shows and his 20-year loops. So he filled us in on all your greatness as well. So that was
very nice.
That was cool, with some cool stories about you. And so
I got a lot of them.
yeah, I'm sure you do. So let's do what we do here at Nox Mente, and let's take you way back to the very first memories you can recall in your life. And this, Mike, this includes stuff that's in pop culture too. So maybe cartoons that were there, movies, things that are way back in your earliest memories. What sticks out now?
So when you ask that question, let me find out exactly what you mean. Are you asking me what my first memories were ever as like infantry? That's not even the word. Coming out of being an infant to being a boy. I mean,
yeah, so what we do here is we build, because we're going to talk dreams and consciousness and all that great stuff.
Yeah, like what cartoons did you watch when you were a kid?
Yeah, like what pop culture stuff stuck out for you? Movies, cartoons.
Did you watch, Land of the Lost with Sleestaks?
I did, but more importantly, I was, and I still am to this day, the classic Bugs Bunny, Merry Melodies, Looney Tunes cartoons. In fact, I spent about 30 years collecting them, per se, if you will, off the television. I used to record them on the television and then transfer them to another video cassette. People don't even know what that is anymore. And then I would build up my collection. I had acquired, probably 20 video cassettes at 6 hours a piece, full with all types of cartoons from the Merry Melodies and Looney Tunes and Bugs Bunny era. It was very difficult to get the old ones, but that's because they were considered to be too racy for people to handle these days. But I did get my hands on quite a few of them, particularly from the 40s, which was the wartime cartoon. So yeah, that was a big thing for me. And I've always been really big on American animation. After Bugs Bunny, once I got into my 20s, The Simpsons, Duckman, Angry Beavers, what else? South Park, The Critic, and so on and so forth. So I would just collect a lot of cartoons. That was my thing. Yeah.
Did you also, do you have, what were your earliest memories in this life coming in?
Well, as a young boy, as a child, as an infant, I can remember, to this day, I can't tell you. It seemed to me as if it was a dream, but I remember as a very small child, I might have been maybe 1 or 2. I remember my mother, it was a summer day and my mother had me out in the backyard, and I think I had gotten or acquired a fever. And I remember her taking me into our house through the basement. And as we walked through, I remember the washing machine and the dryer coming alive. Interesting. I always found it interesting when children get fevers and the hallucinations that you you acquire from them. So that was sort of, I think that was my earliest memory. I could be wrong, but that was pretty much it. My mother brought me inside, and I was feeling sick, and I remember seeing the washing machine and the dryer coming alive. So yeah.
Yeah, nothing like those sick hallucinations
Oh boy,
and
I had a
all
couple of
that.
them.
How
I had
was
a
your
couple of them.
relationship with nature, Myke?
When I was a boy, I always loved animals. And as a probably a pre-teenager, I had always thought about becoming a veterinarian. That all changed the older I got, because I cannot stand to see any animal suffer. I'm at a point now where my life persists of in the morning or any time in the morning or afternoon, I'll go out, I'll feed the deer that come to my door, literally come right to my door. Squirrels, I've got a family of squirrels that live right in the tree next to me. I feed them. Just about a month ago, I saved a yellow-bellied sapsucker woodpecker from the road. It had been hit. I saved that. I saved turtles. When I drive down the road where I live in Pennsylvania and it's raining out at night, it takes me an hour to get home because I have to stop every 5 minutes to jump out of the car and move frogs out of the way. I won't kill anything except mosquitoes and gnats. Anything that bites me and sucks my blood dies. But other than that, I save everything. As a matter of fact, a couple of days ago, I went outside and I was actually collecting fireflies that were caught in webs and saving them by gently cutting off the web so that these poor little things could go back to flying. I have a very strange life, but I love animals more than you could possibly imagine.
Not more than I, and I really love hearing this. And I love how juxtaposition it is to some of your imagery. This big bad.
You're right.
There you are, saving the things in spider webs. I'm
Yep.
with you on the ticks and the bloodsuckers, and that way in my life too. The energetic ones, the people, the ticks, the fleas, all that. That's a big deal, and symbolically, it's a gigantic deal. And then for people that don't know, and we may have a guest appearance of your birds.
Ah.
You've got
Okay,
parrots.
so all of my animals are rescues. I have 3 parrots, actually 2 parrots and 1 parrotlet. I have an African gray. Her name is Kiki. She's 20 years old. She was neglected, and I rescued her in November. My other bird is a blue gold macaw, one of the really big ones. He's 20. He's now 20. He'll be 26 in September. I adopted him. It'll be 2 years in September that I adopted him. Both of those birds are pluckers. They pull out their They pull out their feathers. So that's all because they were neglected from their previous owners. And then the parrotlet's name is Yoda. They are the smallest parrots in the world. They're actually smaller than parakeets. And she wasn't neglected. She was given to me by a friend who was trying to raise them and breed them. And the male ended up getting killed by her dogs. So she gave the female, who I have now, Yoda. And I used to have 2 parrotlets. The other one died about 2 years ago. And then I have 2 snakes that I rescued. One is a ball python. The other one is a corn snake. And then I have my wonderful, wonderful cats, Puma, which is the male, and Little Miss Cricket, who is the female. They're brother and sister. They were very, very, very sick when they were born. They had a disease which I cannot remember off the top of my head. But had they not met the girl who saved their lives, who spent, I believe, 4 months having them in a secluded room, going into that room, having to wear a complete toxic removal outfit, the mask, the headpiece, the gloves, everything. taking care of them, and then going back to take care of the other animals at the shelter. If it had not been for this girl, Samantha, these cats would have died. Her undying devotion to saving animals is, I call her the guardian angel of animals. So yeah, Cricket and Puma, they've got a new life.
Oh, I love that. I love all animals, and I've had several snakes. I used to, when I belly dance with the snake, that's how the story is not for the show, but anyway, I love snakes. But you have the colubrid, the corn snake, which those are my actual favorites because of the colder climate I live in out here in Washington. They don't really need the same setup the more tropical ones need, and
Right.
the color variation. I also find them I can geek out on snakes all day. They're so elegant how long and thin they get too.
I used to have 8 at one point.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and again, they were all rescues, so to speak.
Yeah.
Some of them were given to me. Like the biggest one I had was a 5.5 foot black Texas rat snake.
Oh God, those are so gorgeous.
Oh, it was, but it was so mean when I got
rat
it.
snakes are nasty.
Well, I got news for you. I actually trained it to become very docile, and usually when people feed snakes living creatures, they are somewhat aggressive, if not mostly aggressive. Now, for example, with pythons and anacondas and boas, they have the pits in the front of their face, which allows them to detect what is prey, and that's how they're brought up to understand how to eat. So you have to fool them in order to feed them prey that is not live. So what I do is I'll take the mouse out of a freezer, thaw it out, heat it up like under a heat lamp, and that makes them think they are getting a live dinner. But in reality, I'm tricking them, and it took about a month to train my python. But yeah, he no longer eats live food, and he hasn't since I got him. Probably
that's impressive.
10 years ago.
I did switch over at one point. I had a couple rescues to a reticulated python her name was Lilith, and she was terribly damaged but sweet disposition. But I had to give her to the Herpetological Society in Chicago. She got too big for me, and I could not feed rabbits to her, dead or alive. I just
hard.
can't. I love rabbits. So that was the end of my snake experience. Sasha ended up with someone and lived a very long time. So, but back to, this is great character stuff, by the way, Myke. It just says so much about who you are, and animal people are, to me now, one of the ways I gauge who's still human. And there's a har with that, but there's something about that. And so, all right, back when you're early young, Myke, did you have, so in context to dreaming, did you have any fears at the time? So the thing under the bed, the thing in the closet, the dark woods, any of those kinds of things?
As a child, up until the age of 12, and I remember this, actually 11, I'm sorry, until the age of 11, I had the standard, scary, monster in the closet, monster under the bed. But at age 11, I saw The Exorcist on television, mind you, edited, and I saw it for the first time, and it scared the living hell out of me. I had to sleep with the light on for about 3 or 4 weeks. I was petrified after I saw that movie, and which is how it affected a lot of people back in the 70s when it came out, I believe in 74. And by the time I saw it, which was on TV, it was already, all the scary, violent parts per se were taken out. And I didn't even see the parts of her with the crucifix, so on and so forth. I didn't even see that. So I saw this toned down version on TV, and it just scared the living daylights out of me. And here's where you're going to laugh even more, Mr. Myke Hideous. I could not watch that movie until I was about 38. I could not watch that movie. It scared the hell out of me. It really did. But now I own it on DVD, and I have all the episodes or all the movies on DVD, and I absolutely love it. I think it's pretty cool.
That is so funny. I know. I love the dark persona, and here you are, your big teddy bear.
Is it safe to assume you were raised Catholic?
I was born and raised Roman Catholic. Yes, I was.
Yeah, me too.
And are both of you still practicing religion? Do you still?
Oh, I wasn't raised any religion, so
Okay, so
I was a Roman Catholic, but
yeah.
anymore.
Oh,
Not-
this
not
is
anymore?
anything goes here, Mike.
Okay.
All
Well, I didn't want to
words.
offend any. I didn't want
You're
to
not.
offend either. one
I'm
of
a
you.
witch, so you're not offending me.
being offended is
Oh.
a personal choice, my friend.
Okay, just checking. I want to be respectful.
Don't
I'm a
be.
Satanist, actually.
Excellent.
Yes, I know this.
I actually I started asking questions about religion at the age of 13. I went to Sunday school. I got my confirmation, my penance, my and all that other stuff. And immediately after grammar school at age 13, and after getting my confirmation, I never went back to church again because I was questioning it constantly. Then my parents sent me off to a Catholic high school, and I did miserably. And I failed terribly for 2 years. I failed, and I just had to get out of there. So you can't even be your own person. You got to wear the suit, and not the suit, the tie, the shirt, and the slacks. That just wasn't me. But again, my parents were Italian. Well, my father's side is Italian. My mother's side is Swiss, German, and Dutch. And I just had to get away from it. And as time went by over the years, there was a long period of time where I was just sort of atheist, and I really had no belief whatsoever. But then it was 2006 when I began doing a research on the occult, and I was fascinated by the occult, and I began reading a lot. And I mean, when I say a lot, I was reading like 2 or 3 books at a time. And for 6 to 7 years, I studied the occult, witchcraft pre-1960s, because after the 60s you had Wicca, which I did not study.
Yeah, no, yeah. Mm-mm.
So I studied black magic. I studied the Goetia. I studied Enochianism. I studied, and then I got to the part of Satanism. And so here's what freaks people out when they hear that I'm a Satanist. They immediately think, well, this guy is eating babies and sacrificing animals, which couldn't be further from the truth. But as I read more and more about the Satanic Bible, I began to understand that to me, it made perfect sense. In fact, it was the best self-help book I had ever read. And it teaches you how to be responsible and take action, take responsibility for your own actions. Whereas I found a lot of people who are religious tend to say, well, when good things happen, God did that. And when bad things happen, like, the virus or the fire that burned down the whole house and killed all the little boys and girls, that's the devil's work. And I just couldn't understand that, because immediately you're placing blame on something that you can't even prove exists, that it was the cause of something bad. And I don't see that. I think there is cause and effect, and I think there's a complete everything is about accountability. And if you want to succeed in life, you have to be willing to take responsibility for your own actions.
The Satanic Bible from Anton LaVey is a genius piece of work. Absolutely genius. And people that, I just behoove you, if you have a preconceived notion of it or a knee-jerk response. It really is something you should read with an open mind and hear what's being said. And it's certainly not about worshiping a deity.
Right.
You just will be surprised at how logical and sensible and how into inhabiting your experience here and now it
That's
is.
right. That's right. That's absolutely right.
Are you a member of the COS?
No, don't need to be really.
No,
If you're gonna,
absolutely.
one of the highlights, as you both are aware, I am a co-host on a show called the Michael Deacon Program, and one of my highlights of having worked with Michael is the ability that I had to interview. What's his name? Oh,
Michael Aquino.
Michael, thank you. Michael Aquino, who is, oh my God, the guy is like borderline genius, and if he's not already. And his books they're amazing. So he told me a few things about the original Satanic Bible that was written by Dr. Anton LaVey, and how they didn't make sense. And once he told me, it made total sense on what he was saying to me. And I realized like there were certain things that shouldn't be in that book, but are. So what really comes down to, if you're going to be a modern Satanist, is that you have to be ready and willing to accept the fact that everything can be, to some extent, controlled through your mind. And then there's also then you also have to consider whether or not you believe in a satanic deity such as Lucifer, or demonic entities. Because that's always something I ask. Like, if you believe in Satanism, does that mean you have to believe in the opposite, such as God or higher power, Jehovah, whatever it may be? And that's really not the case either. The only thing I can explain about modern Satanism to anybody listening is you have to read it and understand it yourself. And you can't just read the Satanic Bible. You really got to look into it. There are a lot of different authors out there with a lot of different views, and they kind of all bottleneck into one idea. So,
You know that Aquino passed away in September.
oh my goodness, I was asking Michael about this.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It is officially confirmed today. Lilith, for some reason, it's all speculation. Oh, his gorgeous wife, Lilith, my God.
Yeah.
She's a true beauty. They just posted it officially today over on the site, but I guess it had been kind of bubbling around.
Yeah, he was telling us he had cancer when we interviewed him, and I kept telling Michael, for a guy who has cancer, he certainly is, he's got a good sense of humor. His whole outlook about it was just, okay, what are we going to do? And the weird thing is, back in around Christmas, I actually sent him a Christmas card, and I was completely unaware of this. I don't even remember the last time him and I interviewed Michael Aquino. Wow. I'm sorry. I'm very shocked by this
We
news.
think you did the last interview with him, by the way.
Oh,
that was what was
yeah.
kind of being talked about when we were, when CW Chanter had his pre-show here, or on his channel. And it was kind of in the chats, people were thinking that your interview with him was the last.
Oh, wow. Wow. I'm sorry. I'm just really blown away by this information. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Shocked.
a lot of people are. It's just interesting because he'd passed away in September, so we had sent him an invite and wondered why he'd never responded, and now we know why he'd passed on. So yeah. Sweet dreams, Michael Aquino.
Now that I think of it, I think the last time we interviewed him was in August of last year. I almost want to say it was last summer. And this was before I was even the official co-host for the Michael Deacon program. Michael would call me every once in a while. Hey, you want to do an interview with me? And I would say, yeah. Especially when he did Aquino, and I got an opportunity to interview Aquino, I believe 4 or 5 times, and I'm pretty sure the last time was last August, or at least last summer. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'll be contacting Michael after this interview is over to talk to him about this. Wow, I'm blown away. Blown
Yeah,
away.
it's funny. We're even, it's interesting that we're talking. There are a lot of synchronicities going on today, and this is one. This was not a plan. Our show's never planned, though. Anything we were going to talk about, but this is how our show goes. So I want to weave this back though to young you. So now we have your religious template of where you were and where you are now. And so while we still are kind of building the foundation here, how did the dream world, what was your dream world like? Were you a dreamer? Did you have, what did they look like? And more specifically, what did you think about dreams as a young person?
As a young man, I had a lot of vivid dreams. I had a lot of vivid nightmares, and especially after age 13, I began to dream a lot about nuclear war. That replaced the old scary movie kind of, or monsters under the bed scenario. And at the time, I believe Ronald Reagan had become president in 1980. That's when I was 13, and there was all this talk about war and bombs and nuclear bombs, so on and so forth. And I used to have terrifying dreams of nuclear warfare, and that lasted for quite a while. There's one dream I had in particular at age 22, maybe 23. I had. Do either of you know what a succubus is?
Yes, we do.
Of
This is
course
our
you do.
language.
Of course we do.
Of course you do. So, all right. So here's the deal. At age 23, I was still living at my parents' house. I just moved back. Actually, I was living somewhere else. I just moved back, and I had a bedroom downstairs in my parents' house. And I'll never forget this. I had a pull-out sofa bed, and I used to sleep very late because I used to go out and stay out and party very late. So sometimes I wouldn't get up until like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So one day at about 10 a.m., I had this very, very vivid dream. And the dream was a woman, a very beautiful woman, came to me in my dream, and she was over the top of me. And I remember, at least I thought I woke up. I think it was part of the dream that I was trying to wake up. I couldn't even tell you at this point, but I couldn't move. There was a heaviness on my chest. I couldn't get up. I couldn't rise from my bed. And then I kept looking to the left and to the right. And on either side of the sofa bed, I had these lamps. And every time I looked at one of the lamps, it became her face, the woman's face. And so that was weird. That happened one night, actually one morning. And the girl I was dating with at the time, I told her what happened. We kind of thought it was freaky. The next night, or I should say the next morning, it happened again, the exact same situation. The heaviness on my chest, unable to wake up or rise from my bed, and seeing the faces. It was almost an absolute repeat of what happened the day before. Told my girlfriend again. She was like, well, you know what happens if the third time she comes to you, like she takes your soul. And so the third day, that dream didn't quite happen, but I remember having a dream where I saw her in my room. This time she wasn't over the top of me. So that was one dream in particular that really stood out in my mind. I'll never forget that. Other dreams, by the time I was about 25, I was smoking a lot of pot. And, they tell you when you smoke a lot of pot, you don't dream at night. which was one of the reasons I started smoking pot a lot at night, because I didn't want to dream. um, I can honestly say I don't remember a lot of dreams now. I guess I kind of just brushed them off. Um, I'll smoke weed every once in a while, usually just when I'm going to bed. I don't smoke it socially or anything like that. I smoke it just to put me to sleep at night. So I'm betting that it probably stifles my dreams.
So back with these, Jerry, were you going to say something? Look like you were. Okay, so you age 13, you were having these warlike dreams, and those were reoccurring, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I used to have especially if my parents went away to the vacation house we had in Pennsylvania. I would have these terrifying nightmares if I was in the house alone, and most of them, if not all of them, were always about war or about a wasteland which was ravaged by war, where I couldn't find anybody or everything was destroyed, that sort of thing, you know.
Interesting. And also, I guess just for this early stuff, are you an only child or do you have siblings?
I have 2 older brothers.
Okay. I figured with that Italiano in there, you had something. You had some.
Yeah,
siblings.
that's true.
Okay, and then I wanted to get back to the succubi stuff too. Were you so at this time? So you're 23 here, and what were your thoughts of it? Were you thinking this is sleep paralysis? Did it feel like something other than you? How real was it?
Oh, it was real. I began reading about witchcraft in freshman year in high school, and that's how I knew about things like this. Kind of an interesting story how I read about how I began to understand witchcraft as well. In going to this, when I was a freshman in high school, there were these 2 girls, Jewish girls, in a Catholic school, Lisa and Cheryl. And this is so weird. They had this book. I can't remember what the title of it was, but it's something witchcraft, maybe understanding witchcraft or something to that effect. I don't know. It was just a simple paperback novel type book, you know. So I don't know where I was going, but I was coming out of the school. I was going down the hallway, down the stairs, the stairwell, and I ran into Lisa and Cheryl, and they were practicing witches at the time. Now, mind you, I was just 13. I really didn't understand a lot. I was kind of a mama's boy. I wasn't Myke Hideous. I certainly wasn't Myke Hideous. And as I walked down the stairs, they stopped me, and almost as if they were coming on to me, and they're asking me like, so, you know, would you be interested in, you know, coming over and doing some of the rituals in the book? And they showed me the book, and I said, oh, I'll think about it, because the girl Lisa, when she said that, had this really strange look in her eye, like almost like psychotic. And I kind of got freaked out a little bit right there. And so I left. So long story short, I think it was that week. It was parents' night. And my mother was going to go to the school. She's going to go talk to the teacher. So I went with her. And when I went with her, I was hanging out with a buddy of mine, BJ. And him and I took a shortcut through the gymnasium. And here's where it gets weird. As we were walking through the gymnasium, which was also an auditorium, on the stage, lit by a light from the top of the stage, was that very book that Cheryl and Lisa had. It was sitting right there. And as I walked, I was behind my friend BJ as we walked through the auditorium or the gymnasium. And I saw this book and I'm like, holy crap. I said, that's their book. So I took it. And then that was the very first book I read about witchcraft. And I was very shocked because it was almost as if it reached out and said, Myke, you got to read me.
That's
But you know,
astonishing. I
it was
love this
very
story.
weird,
Yeah.
very weird. And I was
Upon
still trying to understand it. I didn't quite understand anything at that age. I was just a kid, you know.
did you after you read it, what were your thoughts on these things, that it represents? And because part of what I find is there's a sexiness to the occult that draws a lot of people in.
Right. Well, for me, as I said, there was a point in time where I went for years not really being attracted to either side, you know, God or Lucifer. And but at around 19, what was I, 19? I think I was 19, possibly 20. Um, another friend of mine, we were at my parents' house, and another friend of mine came over with this satanic Bible, and it was just me, my friend, and another guy, and he brings this book over, and he's trying to tell me, "Oh, let's read it." And I still didn't quite understand things, and then all of a sudden, all the lights in my house went out.
Wow.
I was really freaked out at that, and I took the book. I was like, "Get this effing book out of my house!" And I threw it out the door. So again, I didn't quite understand it. I didn't quite know how to take it, and yeah. So my early encounters with understanding or reading about the occult or witchcraft or even Satanism, for that matter, I didn't even go that way. I was completely uneducated, and to tell you the truth, I don't even think I cared. I didn't want to know about it. It was years, probably about 10 years later, that I really began to find an attraction to the occult.
Well, this is an interesting loop because there was your first encounter with LaVey's Bible
Yeah.
right there, and you throw it out, and then you come round to where you are now. That's a very interesting loop. And then also another one is pre 2006, and you have, anyone that can look back on you and see the dark imagery, the goth imagery, the punk rock imagery. You have a Plutonian, very, very very sexual, very beautiful, very dark and witchy persona, and yet at that time you really weren't into any of it.
Right. For the most part, up until about 1993, that's when it all began. But prior to that, I was just being me. I had just started my band in 1988, so I was preoccupied in learning how to be a musician and a performer as well as a singer. Um, and that was really what dominated my life. Uh, and I suppose once I became more comfortable with that, I was able to incorporate more things into my life. I even put my artwork aside. Once I was doing music, I pretty much stopped. I mean, I did a few things, but not nearly as much as what I'm doing now. Um, because music, that was what I was focused on. I was trying to get to that level of being a successful professional musician. So, all the other stuff was secondary, if at all. Um, so, as I said, once 1993, 94 rolled around, I was beginning to accept more things, and I had renounced my religion, and or I should say, my religious upbringing, and I guess things just sort of little by little became what they became.
So in 1993, if we can go back there, so what was going on? Were you with your dream life? Do you recall that period bringing in anything unusual in your dream life? Were you dreaming at this time?
I probably was, but I don't. Again, I don't recall. There was nothing really stands out. in my dreams. Again, at that point, I began to smoke marijuana more often, especially at night. So I wasn't remembering my dreams. I mean, you still dream, but I think they say that when you smoke marijuana, you don't remember your dreams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That happens for some. It seems to be common, but it's not everyone says that.
I mean,
So,
I'll have them once in a while. I'll have a dream and I'll remember it, but for the most part, I don't recall.
so when you were getting into the occult, and so really around 93, when you were more open to this stuff, what were what did you think? And the reason why I'm pinning this on the occult is because dreams are tied into all this otherness, this other than us, this realm that we visit, that we can visit, that we have access to. And it's mystical because of that.
Right.
What were your thoughts, and not your thoughts now, what were your thoughts then about the whole experience of dreaming?
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't even think I had an opinion. I never really thought about it back then,
That's
truthfully.
interesting because it's mentioned in so much of the occult.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, it is.
yeah, I mean, it's a portal of sorts, but you really got deeper into that stuff in '06, it looks like.
Yeah, in 2006 is when I really became immersed in it. And as I said, for 7 years, I believe it was, let's see, 2006, 2007. Yeah. So yeah, for a good amount of years, I was studying it. And then in 2011, I wrote by hand my own grimoire, um, of, of, uh, of black magic. It's a 400 plus page book. The book was handmade in Turkey, leather bound cover with a moon embossed on it, which was given to me originally as a gift from a friend of mine to be an art book. But I ended up changing it and turning it into a grimoire. So it took me exactly 1 year to write this entire book, which also includes not only all my handwritten um, uh, spells and curses and rituals and so on and so forth, but also meditation and mantras and history. And like I took everything from every book I was ever reading and incorporated the good things that I wanted to into my own book, so that when I wanted to study magic on my own time, I could get to exactly what I wanted to get to. The book includes drawings, both original and copies from other grimoires and books, and as I say, over 400 plus pages of spells, incantations, and rituals.
Oh, my stars. This sounds incredible, Mike. Are you at any point, I know it's a personal work, and psychologically, there's nothing more compelling than doing those kinds of things. This is basically what Jung was doing in his black journals that then filtered out and became his red book, part of his other journals. And it's the same thing. It's his grimoire. But this is a psychological process. So I'm wondering, and so for people that may not know, I hear you talk about this on Deacon's show. Well, you're in Deacon's show, and the cancer battles you've gone through. So which have been several,
Seven,
and
eight, actually, eight.
is amazing. So I would like to get into some of that in regards to the esoteric side of what you went through. And did some of this catharsis through these processes make it into your grimoire? Because obviously this process of facing the unknown at that level brings you to where you are now, obviously.
Well, I've had a total of 8 encounters with cancer, both malignant and benign. And I say 8 because two times, actually, I should say there were 2 instances in which I had 2 different cancers at the same time. That's when I was 16. But that's when it all started, actually, when I was 16 years old. And so, yeah, I've had, as many times as I've had cancer, it never reflected in any of the writing that I did with the grimoire. I didn't see any necessity to include that in anything. Did it have an influence? No. As a matter of fact, I try very hard to sort of leave it out of my active world, for lack of a better term. And yeah, the things that have happened to me with cancer, I try very hard to put them aside, and move forward, you know.
Well, so I guess what I'm saying is it informs you on a deeper level. And as you know this, it changes your view, whether it's just about knowing that you can survive, but you're also looking into the void, right?
Right.
And it just does this. There's a major shift when one has to confront yourself at that level and your mortality at that level that is sometimes goes without knowing or understanding. And I find in people I know that have confronted these things, and myself with having been in some bad situations but not cancer, that all these big life changing encounters create they agitate us and create something different and new. So I feel personally like this information's definitely informed anything you've done artistically, even if you may not acknowledge that.
Oh, it definitely influenced me. As a matter of fact, when was it? The second time I had it, which was at age 21, that's when it influenced me to want to be a musician and write music. I had the second time around, I ended up having a tumor in my spinal column, wrapped around my spinal cord. And I had to have this major surgery in order to get it out. So after it happened, I already loved music. I was loving music since I was about, again, 13. So I come out of this probably a 4-month event, of which it took me to actually recuperate, where I could walk again and be steady on my feet and not worry about breaking my back or something. But it was at that point that I decided, you know what, I'm going to start writing music. I want to record songs. And before I knew it, I had a band and I was getting ready. And that was a really big thing for me. Then I got sick again at age 23. This time I had, they diagnosed me with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. This time I didn't get surgery. This time I had so many tumors on my back. They had to treat me with chemotherapy and radiation. And then that time around, that influenced me even more to want to do the thing. I became so focused at that point in my life that I was going to be a musician, that I was going to do the things that I wanted to do and not let anything hold me back. Because I realized at that point in time that life was far too short, and so many people don't understand. They take life for granted, and they don't understand how easily it can be taken away from you. And that is how probably what I owe to the success of myself being the noted musician or performer that I became. Granted, I didn't become somebody like Bruce Springsteen or David Bowie, but I certainly made a name for myself worldwide, and that's, I guess, good enough for me.
Oh, you certainly did, and you're fucking awesome. Your singing voice, oh Lord.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Baby, it can take me there.
Thank you very much.
So I guess I want to get, since you don't have a lot of dream stuff to bring in, I do want to catch an idea. So it's going to be philosophical, of course, and a lot of what we do here is anyway. But when you dream and the dreams you recall, what does the dream landscape look like for you? Is it color? Do you experience smell or taste? All that kind of, what does it appear to be?
As much as I would love to give you a spectacular answer, I really can't. I can honestly tell you, I can't even remember the last time I remembered a dream.
Well, for example, your war dreams when you were 13, were they in color?
That's a good question. I remember the one dream I had where I ran outside and I looked towards the mountains and I saw the mushroom cloud, or at least the explosion. I want to say I saw that in color.
Mhm.
It's hard to say whether it was or not.
But obviously it was completely visceral for you to still have those images around, and that it was reoccurring. Do you think, and this kind of piggybacks off of that, do you what are your thoughts on precognitive dreams? Because time doesn't loop up. Time has, so we've got to strip the idea of time from the dream realm. It does not play there.
Remind me, definition of precognitive again?
Dreaming something before it happens.
Oh, okay. Kind of
So
like deja vu, right?
very close to deja vu. I think people could argue those points. But say for example, 13-year-old you may have been precognitively tapping into something that we could be looking at right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And as much as I would love to believe that, I'm very skeptical about everything, and
You're
it
a
takes a lot.
Satanist, of course. This
So,
is a
and
good quality.
I've been like this all my life, which is one of the reasons that I ended up getting out of religion at the age of 13, because I was asking so many questions and trying to get answers, but nobody had answers for me. It was all blind faith, and I cannot rely on blind faith. I'm sorry. So, to answer your question, I really can't tell you whether or not any of my dreams had any significance to real life events. I just can't answer that question. I'm sorry.
No, that's absolutely fair. No sorries here, baby. No sorries. So, all right, let's get into a little bit of and before I kind of close this little section, when you were going through surgeries and recoveries, and also this includes like addiction recoveries and all that, did you ever find yourself out of your body? So, and that's a wide open question. It could be because of say a drug, or because of just torment in whatever way, or extreme pleasure. Have you been outside of your physical body in any way that you can put your
Yes.
finger on?
Yes. In 1993, my wife had bought some magic mushrooms and I took some. And I remember lying down on our bed. She had gone to work, and I had lied down on the bed. And I had this feeling. I remember being myself, lying face down on the bed with my face in the pillow. And then I remember coming out of the body, seeing the back of my body going further out to the ceiling, and then just sort of hovering in that area and looking around. That's probably the best example I could give you of an out of body experience. It was so clear. I guess they were really good mushrooms.
So what was the mood like? So you're out of your body, and this is a big deal, really.
Right. So what was the mood like is the question.
For you. Yeah. I mean, how were you when you were having that experience? What did it feel like as far
It was
as
frightening. It was
Yeah.
frightening.
Yeah.
I was really freaked out. I want to say it was a reaction from the mushrooms, I'm assuming. But at the same time, I can't even remember if I had fallen asleep or not. I just don't remember what it was. I mean, again, this was 1993. And as I said, that's probably the closest thing I can recall as being an out-of-body experience. If I may interject for 1 second to your questions, there have been 3 instances in which I actually predicted what was going to happen that very moment.
Yes, lay those on us.
Okay, the first was, as a boy, again, 13 years old, I was laying in bed in my parents' house, obviously, and I'm laying in bed. It was a Saturday morning, probably about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. And in my bedroom, I used to have a plant hanging from a plant holder that was underneath. I had like a beanbag chair when I was that age, and it was over in the corner. And I remember waking up, laying on my back, and I was just looking at the plant. And I said to myself, gee, if anybody was sitting on that beanbag chair, if that thing ever broke, it would break their head, because it was a big glass plant holder or pot with a plant in it. And all of a sudden, the thing just went blink, and it just dropped, and it fell right onto the beanbag. That was the first incident I had ever had where I was actually thinking about something and it happened. The next time, fast forward till I was 22, possibly 23, maybe even, about 22, 23. A friend of mine, this guy Frank, he was a Buddhist, and he had given me these little hand carved skulls that the Buddhists make for they're supposedly
Prayer beads, yeah.
prayer beads, right? They're made out of yak bones. So he made this beautiful necklace for me, and I used to wear the necklace all the time, and all these skulls on it. One day I'm in the shower, and I'm doing my thing in the shower, and I think to myself, gee, I should probably next time take this necklace off, because if it were to break, all these little skull beads would go right down the drain. And in that very second, the thing went blink, and it fell right off my neck. And I had to put my foot on the drain so that the skulls didn't go down the drain. But at that very second, as I was thinking it, it happened. Okay.
Wow.
I know, right? Fast forward to age, I think I was 32. I was driving back from my parents' house. I was living with a girl at the time, and we were driving back from my parents' house after a visit. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking to myself, other cars were coming. They were coming down the road towards me, and I just thought for a second, gee, what would happen if one of these cars hit a rock and the rock flipped over on this side of the lane and hit my windshield? And at that very moment, a rock came flying up and hit my windshield. There you go.
Holy cannoli.
3 incidences to which I cannot explain and I'm not lying about it. I have no reason to lie about it, and I'm certainly not exaggerating either. But yeah, that all 3 of those incidences blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. Especially the one with the necklace.
Yeah, these are incredible. It's like they're all a decade apart. What do you make of this experience? What do you think about it?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I mean, what does anybody know about circumstantial, coincidental experiences that anyone has? Nobody really has any clue as to what or why or how.
Well,
And I
that's the
certainly,
fun part, Myke.
yeah.
This is where we swim. I like this stuff. I like the stuff that nobody has a real claim on it. They can suggest they do, but
Right.
in the end of the day, you just can't prove it.
That's right. And as much as I would love to give you some answer that, somebody was watching me, I just don't know. I can't explain it.
So, do you think it's possible? So, whatever it is, you were in tune with circumstances that were going to play out, rather swiftly for you. And like I said, for whatever reasons, whatever the mechanism is there, uh, this is part of that other experience that is often tied into uh, genres like dreaming and the experience of dreaming, where it's another experience. We can't quite put our hand on it. We can't really wrap around how is it happening, that we're jumping the idea of time space, right? You're tapping into something. And I'm wondering, so, and again, these questions are all just about what you think. I don't care about hanging stuff on someone's theories or other stuff. That's all great in the world. That's fantastic. I'm glad there are people that do all this and have theories and math behind it. We're just mostly interested in opinions and ideas. And so this idea of synchronicity, if you will, right, which is technically meaningful coincidence.
Okay.
So it's coincidence that we ascribe meaning to. Otherwise, there's no meaning there, and it's just one of those hit your head. What a quinkadink. But when you have them like this with you, 3 experiences that are unusual and connect a certain phenomena, there, it leads me to question your idea of synchronicity and the synchronistic universe.
Okay, so what was the question? I'm sorry, I didn't.
So what do you think about synchronicity? So all these coincidences that happen that seem
Right.
related.
Okay, so I really don't know if there was a connection. I'd like to think there might be, but to be perfectly honest with you, I never really dove that deep into it. I just figured these were coincidences that happened. I had no control over it. They just happened. The world is full of coincidences, which are quite unexplainable, but the world is a very big place. The universe is a very big place. And there are a lot of unanswered questions. And let's face it, we as a species are only capable of understanding such things that are in front of us, within our sight, within a realm of understanding. So I can honestly sit here and tell you, I don't know what the cause was. I don't know what the significance was, or the reasoning behind what happened. I never dove deeply into it, only because I figured, well, am I going to find an answer? Probably not.
That's
It'd be
fair
nice
enough.
to know, but it'd be nice to know, but I just don't know.
No, I appreciate this about you. And that's another thing, it's all right to, I think it gives a person more credibility to say, I don't know, than pulling shit out of their ass, right?
Right.
So with this said, what are your ideas around, and so thoughts, feelings, intuitions, around the others? And so let me give you a little something to chew on with that.
Wait, back up a second. When you did Big Shroom
yes.
Trip, did you see the elves or anything, any entities other than humans?
No.
Okay.
No. For me, at that time of my life, any sort of mind altering substance I might have had, and I only smoked pot and occasionally had a mushroom or two. I didn't trip on mushrooms a lot. I think the only other thing I ever at that time, the only other thing I had ever done was maybe, like Percocet or Vicodin. And that, to me, I don't even know if that's considered to be a hallucinogen.
It's not.
Right. Okay. So smoking marijuana and or having psilocybin mushrooms only allowed me to, at the time, trip. I that's what it was about, man. I didn't think about it. I wasn't connecting any sort of visual hallucinations, or if you will, with any sort of paranormal experience or anything like
Sure.
that. I simply just, I was just getting high.
Yeah, you didn't take the 5-gram hero dose, so.
Right.
Yeah,
later
I can't get home
on,
dose.
right. Later on, when I got in, believe it or not, I didn't actually experiment with other drugs until after I got out of the Misfits. And then I kind of experienced a whole other realm of things afterwards. Ecstasy, everything from cocaine to heroin to oh geez, I don't
The
even
CIA
remember.
drugs, I get it.
Oh yeah, there you go. All the narcotics. But I'm clean. I'm clean from all that now. The only thing I do currently is I do smoke marijuana, and again, I only do it at night, just before I'm going to go to bed. I can't even remember the last time I. There you go. I can't even remember the last time I smoked weed socially. Probably at least 10 years ago, if not more. I only do it now for this
Medicinal
old man
reasons.
I don't even think it's that. It's for this old man to go to sleep. I smoke a little weed. I put like South Park on and go to sleep.
Oh, hey, this sounds like a date night.
Set that TV timer and kick back.
You're getting Igor worked up. All right, so I have a question about the others, where we were going. So what are your ideas about other things out in the universe that people talk about? So like ghosts, what are ghosts to you?
Oh boy, that's a deep subject. Again, let me repeat, I am extremely in order to believe something, it's got to be proven to me. So I'm very skeptical about a lot of things. As much as I would love to believe in ghosts, as much as I would love to believe in God, and I searched for God all my life. But as far as the paranormal is concerned, I've never seen a ghost. However, here's an interesting one for you. When I wrote that grimoire, I had gotten to a section in my studies reading about contracts with the devil and how you sign a contract, you sign your life away to Lucifuge. And the night I did that, I signed it in blood. And that evening, I swear to you, I kept seeing shadows in my studio. And I was straight. I wasn't smoking, I wasn't stoned, I wasn't drugged out or anything. But after I had written that pact, I kept seeing shadows in my home, in my studio at the time. As a matter of fact, I even kept seeing, I don't know, I guess you guys can see this, but I even kept seeing fingers come past me and pointing like over my shoulder. I kept seeing these fingers. So can I explain that? No, but that was something that happened to me. I cannot explain it. The only other, did I have another paranormal experience?
With
I go ahead. I'm sorry, Johnny.
I was going to say, with your entree into Satanism of late, what do you think of that experience now, looking back?
The one with with the contract?
Yeah, the whole thing. The whole thing.
I'll tell you, it really made me think, Jerry. It made me think. And then when I finished the grimoire, and I did on my third spell. My third spell came true. And it all had to do, and I'm not going to mention any names or get into details, but I will tell you this. My spell had included the, how would I put this? Someone in my building at the time to go away. And I didn't like that person very much. In fact, her and her friend I didn't like very much, and they lived upstairs from me. And I'll never forget, I was walking in the hallway with somebody else, and I saw one of these two people that I was not very fond of. And she said in a conversation to the person that I was with, she said, "Yeah, well, we're moving out at the end of the week." And I was like, what? It came true. Holy crap.
Amens.
So, yeah. So that was, and then I did a couple other spells in which the circumstances ended up taking place as well. So I was kind of blown away by the fact that the magic that I was practicing in rituals was having an effect. So I could sit here and tell you this. If you practice magic, I feel very confident that you are, if you practice it and you get good at it, I feel very confident that I can sit here and tell you that it works, because I've witnessed it work.
Yes,
But-
it does.
But as far as ghosts are concerned, I don't know. I would love to see one day. The spells that I've practiced, or the curses that I've cast, as well as rituals. It's kind of like it's a crapshoot sometimes, and you have to accept that, because altering life and altering the events of life is obviously not something you really have to put your mind into. You have to believe it's going to change. And then if and when it does, you have to accept it as either being, again, coincidence, or did you really have this ability to make a change in reality?
Jerry,
Well-
you look like you're ready to talk.
Yeah, while you were talking about that, I swear I saw an orb fly around your head.
Where at my place or in yours?
On
Holy
yours.
shit.
It came
my,
out from
okay.
behind your head and flew around your hat.
Oh, wow. You're conjuring there, Myke.
Right on. Possibly.
What-
Who knows?
You know what? On that note, what was this might be too personal, but your contract you made, could you give us an idea of what that was and what it was for you?
When you sign a pact with Lucifuge, you have to renounce your religious upbringing. You have to renounce your baptism. You have to renounce God. You have to make a bargain with him, and then, according to legend, Lucifuge, you once you sign it in blood, you leave it out, and throughout the night, Lucifuge is supposed to come, I guess metaphorically, collect it, even though he doesn't take the actual paper, and then brings it to Lucifer, and then your soul is damned to eternity. But again, it all depends on how you look at what hell or Lucifer or the afterlife is. For example, the master who taught me, when you study witchcraft or any sort of magic, you're supposed to not only study yourself, but you're also supposed to be taught by a master. The master who taught me is a guy from San Francisco. I'll only leave it as his first name. His first name is Seth. Seth instructed me that when you read the old grimoires, when you read the old books on medieval black magic and or Satanism or witchcraft, you have to take them with a grain of salt, because back then, what the people were doing who were getting involved in magic, a lot of them were still Christians, or Arabs, or even Jews for that matter. Every main religion had its dark side. In fact, a lot of magic comes from the Jewish heritage, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years prior to Christianity. No, I'm sorry, take that back. 3,000 years before Christianity. Seth explained to me that there are certain things one has to take into consideration about magic, and that is you have to give it an element of your own belief, because magic is what you make of it. So you don't have to go according to textbooks, so to speak, to everything doesn't have to be explained in that book that you're reading, which was written probably 1,000 years ago in a grimoire 1,000 years ago. The sad thing about all of this, the really sad thing about all of this is that I have been involved in magic all on my own since 2011. I have searched high and low to get involved with covens or even groups of Satanists. And where I live, I can't find one of them. I cannot find anybody who I would consider to be intelligent enough, not some young heavy metal guy that says Satan, that's not what it is about for me. I wanted to find smart people who were involved in magic, that would be willing to take on such feats of conjuring up the dead, conjuring up spirits and ghosts. But I don't have any of them out here in Pennsylvania. I don't have anybody. And I got farmers and I got construction workers. That's it.
So
I'm sure we can find you somebody to practice with.
Please do, somebody.
You need a hot babe. That's it. That's on your level.
What did you say?
Demon
you need a hot babe that's on your level.
Jerry,
you need a high priestess. So
yeah, but they don't live out in Pennsylvania. I can tell you that.
Well, you never know.
I know one in Philly.
Philly, yeah, that's about 3 hours from where I am.
Lady
That's
Eboshi.
a distance. Oh,
never know. You never know. Anybody. I'd like to meet anybody that would be in a vicinity of which I can visit or have them visit me.
It's difficult. It is difficult. And one good thing about the internet age is at least people are able to connect virtually now. Like I said earlier when we were talking at the beginning, that's at least one of the good things, so that you're not alone.
And with all due respect, Nish, I understand what you're saying, but I have a great disagreement about that comment you made, and that is this. Yeah, there's plenty of connections that we can make through social media, so on and so forth. But in my personal opinion, I sincerely believe that minds work better within the same room. I sincerely believe that if you're going to try to cast a spell and use magic, and you're going to have a group of people, let's say a coven of people, that to me is the best way to go about it. I can meet all the people I want on Facebook or in the internet or whatever. I don't think it would make any difference whatsoever if they wanted to do some sort of a magical thing through the internet. I don't think that, personally, I don't think machinery and magic works together. That's just my belief.
I'm old school like that too, Mike. And so I'm not saying that and this is why I personally don't have a coven right now, and I'm in a spot where there are a lot of facsimiles of witches. I'm not like the witch you read in the book. I'm a different kind of witch, and more like the Bene Gesserit from Dune. But anyway,
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
that's my style. And
Nice.
but anyway, what I'm saying with that is that we can connect via these basically web tendrils, this web that makes this cloth of connection. So as far as doing the workings, yeah, I'm with you 100%, and that's why I'm solitary at this time myself. So, but with all that said, I wanted to get your idea on this other stuff, so that would possibly branch out into, say, the wild, wacky world of ETs and aliens. What do you think about all that?
Okay. Once, when I was about 9 years old, I was with a group of friends right in the city. I was born and raised in Paterson, New Jersey, and we actually.
That's already a hot spot.
Oh my
What happened
gosh!
in Patterson? There was a big UFO thing, Jerry. What was that?
Really?
I don't know.
Yes, Jerry will find it. I'm sure he's like,
Okay.
the
Was this
amazing tech.
recently? Was this
No, it's
recently?
an old school, like classic UFO thing.
Oh, no kidding. Well, in the 70s, I'm going to say around 77, 76, I think it was. I and a few other of my friends, we actually saw something come down out of the sky. In fact, my friends, it was two girls and a boy. They were brothers and sister, and their mother even came out and they saw it too. We couldn't explain what it was, but we saw this thing come down and fly away. Now, as much as I would love to believe in little green men and aliens and all that, I'm sorry, but once again, without proof, I cannot believe it. There's plenty of people out there that have, and especially with the internet, you've got all kinds of footage of these flying things, whether they're from Earth or from some faraway galaxy. Here's the reason why I don't believe in aliens. I used to volunteer at an observatory, a telescope, in Lyndhurst, New Jersey, and I was trained by a NASA ambassador how to operate this $150,000 telescope. And I used to go there as a photographer, and I would take pictures through the telescope. So I used to talk to her about aliens and life from possibly other galaxies. And the scientific issue that came up was this: if there is indeed life out there, and believe me, with these new satellites like the Kepler, and I think what's the new one that they have? I can't remember. But all they're finding the Spitzer. Okay, so they're finding all these inhabitable, or at least scientifically thought inhabitable planets.
Allegedly,
based on their scientific research and the tests that they are able to do, they are finding planets within the Goldilocks zone where they may actually have life. What kind of life? Who knows? They could have squids, they could have algae, they could have beings that are flying around like the Jetsons. Who knows? But the thing is, we may never know. And this is, as I said before, the universe it's beyond comprehension. That's how big it is. And if indeed there are intelligent beings on there, and I believe there are, but I don't think that they're right next to us. I mean, look, it takes us X amount of time, 6 months to get to Mars. It is physically impossible to travel at the speed of light, at least to our knowledge. We don't know if it's possible, unless we get the scientific knowledge from another being on how to travel at the speed of light. We are never going to, even if we did travel at the speed of light, it would take us like, how close is Andromeda to us? Andromeda is like
6.5 light years.
Light years. It's like trillions. We could never make it there. We could never make it. And I sincerely doubt they could make it here. And if they are, why are they flying around in like Arizona or Mexico or Brazil or Canada? And why aren't they landing? Why aren't they communicating with us? That's why when I hear these conspiracy theories about whether or not aliens exist and why the government is keeping it secret, I'm sorry. Look, if an alien race is going to come here, I sincerely doubt they're going to go, yeah, we want to speak to the president. Can you please let us know who the president is? And we would like to talk to the president of Mexico and Venezuela. I mean, how are they going to know? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it just seems illogical to me. I would love if it was real, but to me, all the images that you see on the internet are either fake or possibly man-made secret components that are being tested by the military or something like that.
That's what I think when I look up in the sky in general. That it's all fake.
That it's all fake?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's so many theories on what they can and can't be. And I don't have an answer for you because I don't know what they are myself. I wish I knew. I really do. And I again, just like God, I've been searching for aliens too. But again, without proof, I'm very skeptical.
Right there with you, brother.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are. What do you think about the idea of interdimensionality? And then also with that, like the whole, and I don't know how much of this stuff you're exposed to. So
I gotta be honest,
not a lot. I mean,
interdimensional, I couldn't even begin to tell you anything about it. I'm completely unknowledgeable about it.
Yeah. And what about have you heard anything about the inner earth stuff?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely silly.
This is why I really enjoy you, Myke.
Here's the thing.
Straight up there. I love this New Jersey aspect of you.
Here's the thing. That will debunk this whole idea of Middle Earth. Back in, I believe it was the 60s or 70s, around the 60s, mid to late 60s, both the United States and Russia competing with each other. They tried, while we were trying to go up to the heavens, we were also trying to go deep into the earth. And the Russians actually beat us out by going, something like 6 or 7 miles deep into the crust of the earth. And the deeper they got, the hotter the temperature became. In fact, I believe, according to what they said, it was 180 degrees Celsius. Now, I don't know what that is Fahrenheit, but that's goddamn hot. So there's nothing that can survive down there except microbes. That's it. You're not going to find dinosaurs. You're not going to find hobbits. You're not going to find chuds. Nothing lives in the center of the earth except microbes. That's it. It's scientifically impossible for anything such as me or you guys to survive in such a hostile environment. In fact, all you got to do is go down about a mile or so, and it starts getting hot. You guys remember the crystal mines that were found in Mexico a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
These gigantic crystals, gigantic. And they were created by the pressure and the heat of this cave. Now, these guys, they go into this cave, and I can't remember how deep down it is, about a mile or so. And they go into this cave.
Selenite, I think.
Beg your pardon?
I think they're selenite.
Be that as it may, these guys, these scientists had to wear, or geologists had to wear these heat protection suits, and even in the suits they're sweating like crazy because the humidity is like 200% and the heat is unbearable, and that's only a mile or two down. You go 6-7 miles, you're going to be on fire. So I cannot fathom the existence of anything in the middle of or at least below the crust of the earth. It's just not possible.
So with that said, though, what do you, so I'm tying this back into your inner world, and which is where dreams and all that happen. What are your thoughts on the idea of your inner world? And so I want to take that into the idea of, with that information right there, move that into your ideas of what is death and what happens when we cross that particular membrane.
I hear a doggy.
I've got 4.
Give him a big hug for me. Okay, are you ready? I have a real simple answer for this, and it might sound really weird coming from a person such as myself. Currently, I believe when you die, it's all over. I believe your brain stops working, and every thought, every molecule that might hold a thought in your brain, either is eliminated or somehow transposed into another living being. Don't ask me how. It's just a theory. That's the best I can give you. But I do not believe in life after death, or should I say, the afterlife per se. I would like to believe in sort of a transition of life from the idea, maybe, I don't know, a thought to another child. I don't know. But scientifically, based on every scientific teacher I've ever spoken to, and what they've told me, particularly doctors and those in the scientific field, that when you die, that's it. It's all over. So you're all done.
So how would this play into the idea of your contract you made?
That's a good question. Good question. Try to understand that when I practice my beliefs of Satanism, that I do them simply because I am here now. And if indeed something changes when I pass on, then that's it. There's just really nothing I could do. I feel that there's on the greater scheme of things, that or the greater picture of things, I cannot control what happens. Let's face it. I mean, death is the ultimate question. It's the ultimate end. It's the great eliminator. And yet none of us really has an answer to what it is. Now, you might say, well, what about those people who have died and have seen the other side and come back? There is a very scientific answer to that. And I've spoken to several doctors about this. When the brain goes into, when it begins to shut down, your brain starts firing off these things, and that's why you start seeing your dead relatives and seeing, open fields and sunsets and pleasurable things, because your mind also starts releasing what do they call them? Not opiates.
DMT.
The DMTs, right? So you start your brain is preparing you for death. And if indeed you do slip into an unconsciousness where you're flatlining, and then you see that tunnel, this was all explained to me. I wish I could explain it better, but I'm not a scientist or a doctor. But your brain is producing something that you as a mere mortal can understand and relate to. And thus, people think that they're going to heaven and seeing, robed figures of Jesus and God and their dead relatives. I believe they're seeing that, but I believe they're seeing it through their mind, which in turn their mind is allowing them to see it because it's a calming effect. You're getting these uh, you're getting these boosts of like opiates in your system to relax you and prepare you for the unknown. So everybody who has died, I think the record holder is somebody who was dead for 15 minutes, and I think that was a boy who fell into icy water and drowned and was brought back to life. I think it was 30 minutes, could even been longer, but he was dead for all that time. And you come back. For all these people who have died and come back, none of them have actually ever gotten to the other side because they all end up coming back. So there's that threshold, that fine line before you cross it, and there's no turning back at that point. You're done. So that's my outlook on life after death. I feel that when you're dead, you're dead. And that's it.
So, with that said, what do you think the function of dreaming is? How does it serve us, especially since you can have, uh, reportedly, and I certainly do, a very fantastical dream life where you're lucid dreaming and you're the architect of landscapes and all that. But for you, what is its function? Why does it play out? Why do we have access to that realm?
That's very, very simple answer. Scientifically, scientists have explained that dreaming, we all have to dream because our brains don't just shut off. So when we go to sleep, that's like turning off your computer so that your computer can now coordinate all the data that it's gotten throughout the day and organize it. It's just like when you blink. If you blink, or when you blink, I should say, you're allowing your mind. It's almost like it's like a pause. You're allowing your mind to process the information that you have seen, and it gets put into the data banks of your brain. When we dream, our brain is in its function during. It's in a subconscious function during a sleep state, so that you can't just stop your brain. So your brain thinks, it fires off things that you've seen or thought about or can imagine. That's the beauty about being human. We can dream up these amazing things, and they become fantasy, so to speak. But we're not the only creatures. I mean, mammals definitely dream. How many times have you looked at your dogs or your cats and you see them go chasing something in their sleep? They dream. It's all a process. It's the brain remaining alive and functioning while you're in a subconscious state.
So, with all that said, because I didn't get a clear idea, you were kind of speaking possibly in terms of reincarnation, but not quite committed. Where is that?
Not quite committed. It's a nice thought. I'd like to think of it that way, but again, without proof, I don't really know. The Hindus have their belief of reincarnation, that if you lead a good life, you come back as a better person. If you lead a bad life, you come back as a rat or a mosquito or something. Excuse me. So, again, a nice concept. I'd like to think that would be the case, but unprovable.
Well, this is why we love the subject is no one really knows. And there's a lot of people that think they do, and on all sides of it. But until you know, you don't know.
That's right.
It's a
That's
special
absolutely right.
club,
Yep.
and we're all
That's
headed
right.
that way.
That's right.
So I
Imagine
wanted
that.
to get, I definitely wanted to get before we get questions or just talk about. I know some people are going to want to know some stuff about the Misfits or something, because we have a
Sure.
live chat like on your show. Uh, on your grimoire, do you ever have you're such a wonderful artist. I can only imagine it's just a thing of beauty. Do you ever have any intention of possibly publishing it, maybe taking out editing it and then putting it forth?
No, and I'll explain why. Um, I have many books on the occult and black magic and witchcraft and all of the above. So when I was doing my research, the information that I put in my grimoire, most of it, a good portion of it, was taken directly from the books that I was reading. For example, there's one book called the Hexagram Grimoire. Hexagram? No, wait. Hexagram? Oh shoot, I can't remember the name of it. And in any event, it's got a chapter within it that talks about how to prepare yourself in a meditative state when you're getting ready to either do an incantation or an evocation or a spell. And it's how to prep yourself before you step into a magical realm. So I basically copied it word for word into my book. So having done so, even though in the back of my book I list just about everything I could possibly remember, where I got the information, I forget what they call that, a reference section.
The bibliography.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
and then there's the index too.
right. In fact, I did both of those for the grimoire, all by hand. And so, you're not the only person who has asked me, what I consider publishing it. And the fact of the matter is, I don't think I could. I think there's too many things in there that I've ripped off, so to speak. Just being truthful here, that I've taken from other books to create a book for myself. Yeah, I may have changed some of the words here and there for certain things, but there were certain articles and paragraphs that had to be written word for word, whether they were written 1,000 years ago or 100 years ago or 10 years ago. I don't know. All I know is that they resonated with me. I shouldn't say that I don't know. There were some things that I do know came from the old grimoires. Some things came from newer books that were published within the last 10, 15 years. And I took all the good stuff that I enjoyed and that I felt made sense to my beliefs, and then I incorporated them into my book. So to answer your question, I don't think it would be possible for me to publish a book that has so much stolen information. It's not really stolen because I didn't publish it. I just used that info to put in my book.
Right, and that's actually pretty traditional, Myke, too, for people's personal black books or grimoires, however you want to look at it, is to take those old spells and incantations, and they do need to kind of follow the format. And so to have that stuff in your working grimoire, I personally got excited just because of your artwork in it. And so I can imagine there's some beautiful art in it.
Thank you. Yes, I have to say there are, for each chapter that I started in the book, I would draw a picture, and I would really get really into it. Then gradually, as I would go into other subjects within that chapter, I would occasionally draw either amulets or sigils or seals or just imagery, whatever it could possibly be. So yeah, really, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how much time I dedicated to that book. It took me exactly 1 year, and I would work on it every single day. 365 days, I worked on it every single day from about 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning until about sometimes till 10, sometimes till 1 in the afternoon. It all depends on it would all depend on how much time I had at that moment. But I really put a lot into that book. And for me, I feel it's a work of art for me. You know, I feel like I can add it to the canvases I've painted or
Yeah.
or the pictures I've drawn, you know.
Yeah, and your photography, all of it. It's definitely a magical thing in and of itself, the idea of devotion to something, to start something from nothing and then devote yourself to the process, and then you have something. That is a magical act. And I also just wanted to get one more question in before we do get questions from others. When you're in the go, when you're in the moment, when you're in the flow, that thing that happens that some people tag as the muse, what's your experience with the muse, or that energy that comes in and takes over and it feels like it's something deeper, something outside of you, and you're basically the vehicle for it? So whether this is music, writing, art, photography, masturbating, whatever.
You do not want to go there.
Maybe I do.
Oh, geez. All right, look. I can basically answer that on three different levels. The first one being my art. When I, for example, when I create a completely original painting or a drawing, there are times when I'll just sit back and just look at it. And I can look at it for like anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour and a half. And I'll just stare at that image. And I begin to wonder where the next bit of creation is going to come from. Now, I wouldn't say there's anything particularly special about how I paint. Sometimes I'll sketch something like the one I'm working on right now. I'm actually where I just finished 2 pieces in the last 4 days. And I've been working on 2 canvases, one of which I started in February, which is probably not going to be done until next year. And another smaller one that I'll probably finish off in maybe a month. So some of them, when they're really, the big canvas I'm working on right now has got a lot of personal imagery in it. And it, you know, as I said, I sit there and I look at it and I try to figure out what I can incorporate into it that's going to make sense and match up with everything that's being as a collage on this canvas. The same with the drawing. So that's the art. The music, sometimes the music will come, in fact, most of the music I write has always come from either a personal experience or an inner feeling, sometimes incorporated with a former lover, a former friend, a former situation or incident. So there's that. And then there's my writing. And my writing basically, that just sort of flows. I begin to write, and the great thing about having a computer that you can, type in words and go back and fix them is just that. You can type something in, and if something doesn't work, you go back and you work it out. In the olden days, you had a typewriter, or you wrote things by hand, and then if you didn't like it, you rewrote it. So similar, but not quite as easy as a computer. So I guess my true muses, if that's the right word, all come from, or I should say, are specifically more or less dedicated to my art and my music.
Thank you for that, Jer.
I have to run off screen for 5 seconds. Hold on 1 second. 5 seconds.
All
5
right.
seconds.
That's fine.
All right.
That's fine.
Yeah, if you have any
Talk
questions,
amongst
please
yourselves.
put them in chat. in uppercase. Oswald, I'm not asking those questions. So
Why aren't you asking Oswald's
he
questions?
wants Mike to explain his tattoos and necklaces in the show picture. And I don't even think he's seen the show picture. So.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Having a
Wow.
allergy attack. Excuse me. Oh, a little bit of an allergy attack here.
I
Yeah, join
think
the
so.
club.
Was there anything with the Misfits, Jerry? I thought there was something earlier.
You know, Grimsteak asked me to ask, but I forgot what the question was exactly. I think you wanted to know what your favorite song was that you performed with the Misfits.
Oh, well, I had two. One of them was a song called Die, Die, My Darling. And the other one was a song which I actually ended up covering in the band I did called Spy Society 99. And the name of that song was called Horror Business.
All right.
And that's actually a song about the movie Psycho.
Cool. So someone in chat wanted me to tell you that you look like a combination of Matt Pike from High on Fire, Sleep, and Scott Wino Weinrich.
I don't even know who those people are.
Me neither. He said you would appreciate it, but I don't know.
I don't know who they are, man. I don't know who they are.
All right. So here's a question. So what are your feelings or experience with tarot and or astrology, especially in regards to spiritual development? And have you used them or other esoteric means such as I Ching?
Great question. And you're gonna pee your pants when you hear the answer.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so after I wrote the grimoire, probably a year or two later, I wanted to begin studying the tarot cards. So I went out, I bought 2 books on the tarot cards, and I bought 3 different decks of tarot. The first 2 I had to buy because I couldn't find the one that I wanted. And the one that I wanted is the classic tarot card look, which was created by someone whose name I can't remember right now. So I have a very bad memory. In any event, I finally found it. And then I decided, all right, well, now I'm going to study the tarot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write myself a book on how to practice the tarot. So I spent a few months on writing this book. It wasn't too hard. It wasn't, that deep, but I read the information from the directions, and then I would write down in the book, and I would even write, like draw pictures of the cards and so on and so forth. And do you know, to this day, I still can't read a goddamn tarot card. I promise I will, though. I promise I will.
Awesome.
I think the trick to reading tarot is to start with the Rider-Waite deck and just look.
That's what it was. Yes, that's the deck I was waiting for.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
No.
and Smith was the painter. Yeah.
Just look at the picture and what does it mean to you? That's what I found to be the best way to interpret tarot to start for the beginner.
And you know what? That's all fine and dandy, but based on what I read, there are certain specific meanings. Like, for example, if you see the image of the man hanging upside down, you immediately think, well, wow, that's kind of grim. What's that mean? Or there's a couple of them that they're so simplistic, like, it's the 7 swords or the 7 cups. That could mean anything. The 7 cups, or what am I doing? I'm thirsty. What does that mean? So each one, when I read about them, each card has a specific meaning. And that's the beauty of trying to, or I should say, that's the beauty of doing a reading in tarot, is knowing what that card originally means and how to interpret it to the person you're doing the reading for. So here I am talking about tarot, and I got to be honest, even though I wrote the book about it, I never really went through with it, and that's something I kind of kicked myself for, because I really wanted to learn and practice the tarot more. I've just, ever since I moved out to Pennsylvania, I've just been so preoccupied with my artwork and my photography that I just haven't spent any time with the tarot. I will.
If you send me your address, I will send you a great tarot book.
Awesome.
Just email it to me.
Thank you.
So, and you should consider writing your own tarot deck, making your own tarot deck.
I don't have time for that. I can't even read the other tarot deck. I can't make one right now.
There's no better way to learn than to make your own.
Your artwork, you could do a fantastic one with your skill, for sure.
Thank you so much.
And Myke, it would probably sell really well.
Yeah.
Seriously. So it is something to consider.
There's tons of Kickstarter tarot decks, so you could, you could totally fund it. So
I was privileged enough to be made into a tarot card. There was a limited edition card set that was made by a friend of mine, and he had me as the death card, and I was so pleased when I saw the way the card looked. I was just like, wow, that was awesome.
I think you'd make a better devil card.
Yeah, but if you think about, Jer said you'd make a better devil card. But if you think about all the times you know, all the cancer and stuff, that is, I think it's very fitting.
Yeah.
So I got another question from Philip Blair. What was your most beautiful paranormal experience?
Probably the succubus. Probably the dream I had, because she was so beautiful. And you know, they say that if you dream about the succubus 3 nights in a row, that she'll take your soul. And I only really dreamt about her twice, in the position of her being over me and, you know, pushing down on my body, not being able to allow me to get up. So that was probably the most sensual paranormal experience I had. Probably the only paranormal experience I ever had.
Did you have a happy ending with that one?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's not a 3-time thing. It's a continual energy drain. So if you start nutting inside this succubus, then she's vamping your energy.
Right, the life force.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
No, it was only twice, and as I said, it was only the 2 times in which I felt like I couldn't get up. So that was
it's the dark side of it, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more question from Oswald again. Are you involved or advocate any groups like Golden Dawn, Theosophical Societies, Thalamus Societies, etc.?
Magical orders.
Yeah.
I would love to be involved in one. I just haven't found one. You know, I wanted to get involved into a serious satanic cult, for lack of a better term, cult. But I've not found any that have that I could be a part of.
We got to hook you up with Alan Greenfield.
Alan Greenfield, boy, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But anywho.
You're right over there where Peter and Peggy, you're over there right there where like the hub of the modern day Church of Satan is, in Poughkeepsie. So I know that's a ways away from where you are.
No, actually, no. Poughkeepsie's only about, I'm going to say maybe an hour away.
They, you know, Peter and Peggy live in Poughkeepsie, and there are tons of COS people all around there.
Really?
Just letting you know, I know lots, trust me, in your area. It would just be a matter of you reaching out to Peter and Peggy. I'm sure they would love to hear from you, because as everyone knows, the Church of Satan's all about you ruling your own world. You've created a name for yourself and all that. So you're guaranteed to get an ear from them.
Peter and Peggy, you say, huh?
Yeah, Peggy Nadramia, and it's the high priest. When LaVey died, he passed it to Blanche, and then Blanche Barton passed it to Peter and Peggy.
It's not Peter Gilmore.
No.
Okay.
If you go to the COS website, you'll get all you need to know on that. So.
Okay, because Peter Gilmore is the one who is in charge of, who is the high priest of the Church of Satan now. That's not the Peter you're talking about, right?
Yes, Peter and Peggy. So they're high priest and high priestess. They've been since the 90s, I think.
Okay, because I actually did reach out to Peter Gilmore after I read his book. And I kept begging him to let me do a photo shoot of him, and he kept turning me down. I did explain to him who I was. He does know who I am,
Mhm.
but that never happened. And I was under the impression they were in New York City. No,
No, they're in Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie. All right, I'll try them again.
Is that the
them
guy
again.
who was making all the videos on YouTube?
Peter Gilmore?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they have much. They kind of stay in the background.
Yeah.
But I mean, if that's what you're interested in, I would reach out at least. And then there's they have Letters to the Devil, which is it used to be, I don't know any longer, but was an online chat kind of thing where you could meet up with others in your area.
And that, like, what is that? letterstothedevil.com?
Yeah, LTTD. And I can't imagine that it's gone, but you never know. So that
See,
if
this is what I was telling you before, you guys, about me being a complete moron when it comes to the internet. I have no idea about any of this stuff. I'm just really old.
yeah, so that's that. If you're looking for the vein of like LaVeyan people, that's definitely the way to go. Go right to the source.
Well,
And you are right there. I mean, there's so many. Seriously, Myke.
Well, yeah. When I lived in Jersey, before I moved out to PA, the few people that I sort of encountered that were Satanists were not exactly that impressive. I was looking for an older crowd, people of my age or even older, who took this much more seriously. I didn't want to be around a bunch of younger people. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Don't take this the wrong way, anybody. But I didn't want to be around a younger crowd that was just a bunch of, heavy metal guys looking to like sacrifice something. That was not what I was looking for. I was looking for some really educated people who were into discussion and philosophical discussion and experimentation. That's what I was looking for, and I just could never find it.
Yeah, there are Satanists out there that I love and hate, and for all reasons. So I'm across the board as far as a person in these realms. I'm like the outsider that flutters in and out, and I have my own real practice, and that's kind of where I am. But I have known some amazing Luciferians and some amazing COS Satanists and people from other groups. So just sniff around there, Myke. I bet under one of those rocks.
I will. Thank you very much. I appreciate that information.
All right. Well, did you have anything you wanted to plug or talk about before we end the show?
Well, there are you can check out two of my websites if you're interested in any of my like the music that I've done and the efforts I've released. You can go to MykeHideous.com. That's MYKE hideous.com. MykeHideous.com. If you're interested in any of my artwork and or photography, you can go to Sorry, wrong one. You can go to horribleartwork.com. That's where my art and my photography is. And if you'd like to contact me directly, you can go to facebook.com/hideous Myke, MYKE.
And also, you co-host with Michael Deacon.
Oh, that's true.
Few times a week.
That.
Yes.
Yes. I am a co-host with Michael Deacon on the Michael Deacon program, which is you can access from YouTube, and it's the Michael Deacon, DECON. And I've known Michael since about 2008 when he first started out, and he used to interview me on his show all the time. And over the years, him and I began to talk more on a personal level. And he asked me to be a co-host. And I have been co-hosting shows with him since, I think, the beginning of February. and I really enjoy the show. I must admit that some of my viewpoints aren't exactly liberal. So if you're politically correct and liberal, don't listen to the show because they'll probably hate me even more. But anywho, yeah, we interview people, everything from conspiracy theorists to former military, musicians,
Everyone.
people.
There's a little bit
Yeah,
of everything there.
pretty much everybody. Yeah.
And
So
I definitely
love it.
appreciate your voice on there. You give a different, you're way different than Michael, and you bring in different questions, and I think you're a wonderful addition to the show.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
Thank you for being on our show.
Yes,
Wow,
thanks
I
so
loved
much.
it. I didn't know what to expect, I have to be honest, but I got to say that now that I've spoken with both of you, I really like thumbs up, man. I really enjoyed the show.
Oh, thank you.
I was seriously, no kidding when I tell you this. I thought to myself, if this doesn't go well for me, I'm done. I'm not doing any more interviews for anybody else, I swear. But I really had a good time. Thank you so much, people. I really, really had a great time. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks
Yes.
everyone for listening. And be sure to tune in next week. We've got an obelisk for the new moon. Or is it full moon? It's full moon next week. And that show's with David Whitehead. So that should be a really good show.
Thank you,
So,
everyone.
thanks everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.